Hello, hello, friends. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tryon, or Try for short. Preferred pronouns, they, them, but any and all are acceptable. Hey, we are getting right back in to another episode of Such a Brew About Nothing, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where I talk about magic cards. It's a big, long yap session because I like magic and I want to talk about it. Just as a heads up for anyone watching, we do have ads incoming in like 5 minutes. That's just how the stream works. We run ads near the top of the stream so that it disables pre-rolls so that people who want to watch the content aren't met with ads as soon as they join the stream. If you don't want to watch those ads, there's a few ways you can do that. First and foremost being by subscribing. It's like $6 and you get 20 free emotes that you can use all across Twitch. It is the month of Wrath because last month was Pride Month. So it's all crash out emotes that are really funny that I like a lot. In addition to that, maybe you're already subscribed to the channel, maybe you were gifted a sub in the last big sub bomb we had, and you want to pay it forward and help a homie not watch ads, you can do so in the form of gift subs yourself. How about that? It's a great way of helping out the community and paying it forward. On top of those, if you have Amazon Prime, did you know you get a free subscription to a Twitch channel of your choice every month with Twitch Prime? Why not consider this channel? I think it's pretty good, but I'm also pretty biased. On top of all those, you can also get Twitch Turbo. It's a great way of watching ad-free all across Twitch. It's like $13 a month. And you get ad-free viewing everywhere, all the channels. That's pretty great, especially if you follow a lot of content creators and you can't afford to sub to everybody. Then that's a way to continue to get ad-free viewing without breaking the bank. And Twitch then pays the streamer the same amount as if a tier 1 sub is watching during a scheduled ad break, which is pretty awesome. On top of those, I get it, the economy's a mess. If you can't afford the sub, but still want to toss a coin to your streamer, you can do so in the form of bits. It's a great way of saying, hey, I like what you do, keep doing it, without breaking the bank. But, do want to stress that any and all financial compensation on this channel is always appreciated, but never required. Just the fact that you're here, whether engaging in the chat like the comfy crew, or just quietly lurking and being entertained, or even watching the VODs on Twitch or on YouTube, all of that support truly means the fucking world to me. You mean the fucking world to me. And that's the intro. Without further ado, we've got 2 decks we're going to talk about today. One of them is a Dinosaurs / Mutate deck, helmed by Animar, Soul of Elements. And, the other is a Tovolar Dire Overlord. I always forget that subtitle. Tovolar Dire Overlord. It's all Werewolves deck, which is kind of one of my pet decks. It's one of my favorites because a lot of people don't know this. I got into Magic the Gathering at the original Innistrad set a long time ago because I really liked how the werewolves worked. I liked that they had, 2 sides and were able to flip back and forth. So that's what got me into Magic. So this has kind of been my pet deck for many years. But we'll get right into those here in just a second. Want to make sure that we've got everything all set. Should be good to go there. All right. There we go. So let's go ahead and flip this camera around and we'll start talking about some magic cards, yeah? There we go. Okay. So we did have a little bit of a... Excuse me while I grab a chair here. We've changed around the backdrop a little bit as we update our streaming setup here. Got a better TV. So things are kind of shifted a little bit. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But let's get right into talking about some magic cards, shall we? So, up first, we have the commander of this deck. It's Animar Soul of Elements, blue, red, green, for a 1/1 legendary elemental with protection from white and from black. Now remember, protection is it cannot be targeted, dealt damage by, or in any way affected by anything that is white or a black card, or with that color in their identity. In addition, whenever you cast a creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Animar Soul of Elements, and creature spells you cast cost 1 generic mana less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. Now, why is this elemental the commander of a dinosaur deck, you may be asking? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Animar is the commander because, fun fact, there was a mechanic that came out in the Ikoria set called Mutate. It had this alternate casting cost, and when you mutated a creature, it had to be on a non-human. You could mutate and either choose to put the card on top of or underneath the creature that's mutating. If you put it underneath, you keep the base creature's power and toughness, and I believe name. Creature. Basically, you keep this creature, but you just add all of the abilities from the mutating creature on top of whatever abilities that creature has. Or you put it on top, and now it becomes that creature, whatever the mutated creature is, if it's on top, gets that all of that card's stat line and abilities and everything, and the underneath creature, those abilities are added to the one on top. So Animar makes for a really fun mutate commander because the pro white black and 1/1 counters, all really good. But here's the big interaction. Casting a creature for mutate still counts as casting a creature spell. So you're making this creature bigger, or if you're mutating the other one on top of it, it gets bigger, and it's dropping the cost of not only casting the creature, but also their mutate cost, because it's an alternate casting cost. So eventually you reach a point where they become effectively almost free to cast. Well, one of the kind of cornerstones of dinosaur decks is that a lot of them can be very high casting cost. So by mutating a few times, you can drop the cost of your creatures, play these big giant dinosaurs for super cheap, and just overrun your opponents. So that's why Animar is the commander for this deck. Let's have a look at some of the other creatures in it, shall we? So this deck does have quite a few of the Jurassic World cards in it that appeared in the bonus sheet of Lost Caverns of Ixalan, if I remember correctly. So you're going to see some notable faces here, like Chris Pratt's character from Jurassic World. This is Owen Grady, Raptor Trainer, 1 red-green for a 3/2 legendary human soldier scientist. Partners with Blue, Loyal Raptor. Partner, of course, is when you cast this, you can go get the creature that it partners with out of your deck and put it in your hand. And in addition, you can tap Owen here to put your choice of a menace, trample, reach, or haste counter on target dinosaur, but you activate only as a sorcery. So he's able to kind of give some keywords to your dinosaurs when you tap him, which is kind of nice because it works very well with Blue Loyal Raptor. Blue Loyal Raptor here is 2 green-blue for a 5/4 legendary dinosaur. Partners with Owen Grady, Raptor Trainer. So here it's got the explanation. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Owen into their hand from their library, then shuffle. So it works inverse. If you cast Blue, you can go get Owen. If you cast Owen, you can go get Blue, right? But as far as abilities, For each kind of counter on Blue Loyal Raptor, each other dinosaur you control enters the battlefield with a counter of that kind on it. So if you use Owen to put a haste counter on Blue, then all of your dinosaurs now enter with haste. If you use a trample counter, then all of your dinosaurs get trample, and so on. So they pair really well together. Now these two do act because they have partnered. They could partner in the command zone, so these two could be a backup commander for the deck, which is kind of nice. You could always swap Animar out for Blue and Owen. Next up, we have Itzquinth, Firstborn of Gishath, red and a green for a legendary 2/3 dinosaur with haste. And when Itzquinth, Firstborn of Gishath enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. When you do, target dinosaur you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. So this creature enters, you can pay 2 more, and you get to do a bite spell, basically. So one of your dinosaurs gets to punch another creature. The nice thing is, it's not a fight. The creature doesn't take damage as a result that you're fighting. So you just get to hopefully destroy something. Next up we have, of course, it's a dinosaur deck, so you have to include Atali Primal Storm, 4 red for a 6/6 legendary elder dinosaur. With whenever Atali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana costs. Listen, everyone who's ever played a big red deck or a dinosaur deck, you're familiar with Atali. This thing is the bane of a lot of people's existence because it comes down, and if you can't stop it, you're just going to start casting your opponent's deck, because every time it attacks, everyone reveals top card, and you're casting all those things for free, including from your deck. Which leads us to Atali Primal Conqueror, 5 green for a 7/7 legendary elder dinosaur with trample, and when Atali Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So kind of like the other Atali, except this just does it when it enters. Now the difference, Atali, the first Atali is reveal the top card, and those are the ones you can cast. This one comes in and says you reveal until you hit a non-land. So you're guaranteed to get a bunch of playable things. The other difference that a lot of people miss on this is it doesn't say the other exiled cards go back. So if you drop Atali and your opponent hits a bunch of lands off the top of their deck, they're gone forever. Those cards stay exiled. Also has for 9 and Phyrexian green, so you can pay this with either green mana or 2 life. Transform Atali, activate only as a sorcery. So on his other side here, he becomes Atali Primal Sickness, a 11/11 legendary Phyrexian elder dinosaur with trample and indestructible, and whenever Atali Primal Sickness deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. So it's not infect, but it's similar to. It's not toxic, it's not infect, it just is an alternate version of dealing poison counters, but with him being an 11/11 trample indestructible, you're probably getting some poison counters over on your opponent, and as a reminder, a player with 10 or more poison counters on them loses the game. So this becomes kind of a version of Blightsteel Colossus, right, where you can just continue attacking with it and killing your opponents with poison damage. That leads us into one of my favorites, one of the Jurassic World cards, Ravenous Tyrannosaurus. I love the Tyrannosaurus from the original Jurassic Park movies. Ravenous Tyrannosaurus here is 4 red-green for a 6/6 dinosaur with Devour 3. So as this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it for each of those creatures. So you sacrifice 1 creature, it comes in as a 9/9. You sacrifice 2 creatures, it's a 12/12. You sacrifice 3 creatures, it's a 15/15. And so on. And whenever Ravenous Tyrannosaurus attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 other target creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. So you have the potential to essentially try and kill an opponent just by playing this. Because as it enters, if you devour a whole bunch of creatures, you could make this thing huge. You target an opponent's 1/1, and all that excess damage goes over to their face. That is potentially the ability to one-shot an opponent, depending on how much health they have. Up next, we have Cresting Mosasaurus, 6 blue for a 4/8 dinosaur with Emerge for 6 and a blue. So Emerge is you may cast this spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the Emerge cost rather than that creature's mana value. So basically you get to drop the cost by 1 blue mana, effectively. But again, because this is an alternate casting cost for a creature, this is reduced by Animar. So if we have 6 1/1 counters on Animar, it will reduce this a bunch. Yo, what's up, guy? How's it going? Welcome on in, friend. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, you have the potential to cast this thing for only a single blue mana, a 4/8 dinosaur, if you have 6 counters on Animar and sacrifice a creature, which is kind of nuts. Also, additional abilities, when Cresting Mosasaurus enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return each non-dinosaur creature to its owner's hand. So you kind of get a Cyclonic Rift sort of effect, because I'm playing all dinosaurs and I get to just bounce everything back to my hand. That's not a dinosaur, which most of it is. And it effectively board wipes all of your opponents, unless they're in dinosaurs too. So Cresting Mosasaurus, very good creature. Next up, we have Marauding Brine Fang, 5 blue for a 6/7. Sorry, had to. Dinosaur with Ward 3. So, for those unfamiliar, Ward is a somewhat newer ability, came out in the last few years, that says whenever you target this thing, yeah, there it is, 6/7. I said the thing. Ward is whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, it's countered unless they pay the ward cost. In this case, 3 additional mana. So it's going to be hard to remove this thing. And has island cycling for 2. So you can pay 2, discard, search your library for an island. Doesn't say basic. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So early game, you could dump this card to land ramp effectively. Late game, you get a 6/7 with Ward 3, which is pretty hard to deal with. Moving on, we have... Listen, if you're in a dinosaur deck, you probably knew this was going to happen. Marauding Raptor. It's 1 and a red for a 2/3 dinosaur that says creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Excellent. Love that. Drops the cost of our dinosaurs. But whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So it's kind of great if you're in, oops, all big dinosaurs. Dealing 2 damage to the dinosaurs, not gonna do much, and it's all gonna wash away at the end of turn, but now you're making Marauding Raptor bigger. So the first dinosaur you play, he's a 4/3. Remember, we're in an Animar deck that has the potential to drop a bunch of dinosaurs very quickly for very cheap. So I've used this with Animar to effectively play like 5 creatures in a single turn. So this became a 12/3, which is kind of wild. Next up, we have Seismic Monstrosaur, 4 red for a 6/5 dinosaur with trample. And you can pay 2 and a red and sacrifice a land to draw a card. So if you just have the excess lands and you really need the card draw, it kind of gives you some hand filtering, which is nice. And also has mountain cycling. So much like we saw with the island cycling, you pay 2, you discard this, you go get a mountain, again, not basic, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. After that, we have Scytheclaw Raptor, 2 and a red for a 4/3 dinosaur, with whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them. Remember, this is Commander. Everybody starts with 40 health. So if you get Scytheclaw Raptor down early, your opponents could only cast 10 spells not on their turn. This one is so good against the blue instant deck. If you have an opponent that likes doing a lot of things on other players' turns, Scytheclaw Raptor just kind of stops that deck dead. Next after that is Bonehorde Dracosaur, 3 red for a 5/5 dinosaur dragon with flying and first strike. Again, flying, the creature can only be blocked by other creatures with flying or creatures with reach. First strike is this creature gets to deal its damage before any normal damage. Pretty straightforward keywords. And at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exile the land card this way, you make a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. If you exile the non-land card this way, you create a treasure token. So you're exiling 2 cards, and you get to play them this turn. And you're getting additional creatures or mana, because treasure tokens, if you're unfamiliar, is an artifact that you can tap and sacrifice to make a mana of any color. So you're getting card advantage, and you're getting more dinosaurs, and you're getting to play those cards and mana ramp. This one is very good for only 5 mana. Next up, we have, oh, it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle card. Look at that. Except it's a dinosaur. This is Silverclad Ferocidons, using some of the original Mirage-era Ninja Turtles art when the Triceratons attacked. The Ferocidons here is 5 red for an 8/5 dinosaur with Enrage, which is whenever this creature is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent of their choice. So this one plays really well with the Marauding Raptor, because you could cast this, it enters, it takes 2 damage from Marauding Raptor, which causes your opponents to have to sacrifice a permanent, and then Marauding Raptor gets bigger, and you could see how they play off of each other. The Marauding Raptor was kind of designed to work with this Enrage ability. Next up is Trumpeting Carnosaur, 4 red for a 7/6. Oh, bump my cards there. 7/6? We don't have a hand motion for that one yet. Trumpeting Carnosaur, 4 red, 7/6, dinosaur with trample. Again, I guess I haven't explained trample. For those who are unfamiliar with trample, when this creature attacks, any creatures that is blocking it, if it were to deal damage in excess of the blocker's toughness, excess damage is dealt to the creature's controller. That's how trample works. And when Trumpeting Carnosaur enters the battlefield, discover 5, which is kind of a fixed cascade. So we talked about cascade a bit when we talked about the Slivers deck. Discover 5 is you reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a non-land card with a mana value of 5 or less. You may then cast that card without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you put it in your hand. So that's where it's fixed over Cascade, because Cascade would just say, hey, reveal until you hit a 5 or less non-land, and now you can cast it for free. But if it's like a board wipe and you don't want to cast it, well, that card's just gone forever. Discover would let you add it to your hand if you don't cast it, which is kind of nice. In addition, you can pay 2 in a red and discard Trumpeting Carnosaur, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So, again, early game, if you just absolutely need the removal, you could pay 3 and you get a Lightning Bolt to a creature, which is pretty great, or a planeswalker if you need. But then late game, you have a 6 mana 7/6. But realistically, because it's an Animar deck, you're probably not paying 6 mana. Next after that, we have Rampaging Ceratops, 4 in a red for a 5/4 dinosaur. With Rampaging Ceratops, can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. I've jokingly referred to this as Super Menace, because Menace is, of course, Menace is the keyword that this creature has to be blocked by 2 or more. This one, it's 3 or more, so it's Super Menace. Next after that is Belligerent Yearling, 1 in a red for a 3/2 dinosaur with Trample. And whenever another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Belligerent Yearling's base power become equal to that creature's power until end of turn. So, a perfect example, Belligerent Yearling with the Ravenous Tyrannosaurus we saw that has Devour. If we devour a bunch, Ravenous Tyrannosaurus enters with a bunch of +1/+1 counters. I said before that, it starts as a base 6/6. If you sacrifice 3 creatures, it becomes a 15/15. Ravenous Tyrannosaurus could enter as a 15/15, and Belligerent Yearling could have its power and toughness become 15/15 until end of turn, which is wild. After that, we have Pugnacious Hammerskull, 2 in a green for a 6/6 dinosaur, with whenever Pugnacious Hammerskull attacks, while you don't control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it. Stun counter is if a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, you remove a stun counter from it instead. But again, because we have a bunch of dinosaurs, he's probably not getting that stun counter realistically, but it is 3 mana for a 6/6, so maybe you get it down early game, you get some damage in, you get another dinosaur out, now you don't have to worry about those stun counters. It's pretty nice. After that, we have Cavern Stomper, 4 green for a 7/7 dinosaur, with whenever Cavern Stomper enters the battlefield, scry 2. Scrying, of course, you get to look at the top card of your library, and then you can put any number of them on the bottom or the rest back on top in any order. So you kind of get to set up the next 2 cards in your deck, potentially. And has 3 in a green, Cavern Stopper, can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn, which is kind of nice, right? 4 mana, you can get a 7/7 in that's not going to be blocked by, it's not going to be chump blocked by something tiny. Next up is Colossal Dreadmaw's scarier brother, Earthshaker Dreadmaw, 4 green for a 6/6 dinosaur with Trample, and when Earthshaker Dreadmaw enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other dinosaur you control. This is one of my favorite ones to play after you've had a bunch of dinosaurs come into play, super cheap with Animar's ability. Then you drop Earthshaker Dreadmaw, and you just get to reload your hand. It's pretty great. And for those wondering, Colossal Dreadmaw is unfortunately not in the deck, just because it's a meme card at this point, but there's so many better dinosaurs out there, like Earthshaker Dreadmaw, which is just decidedly better. After that, we have Ancient Imperiosaur, 5 green for a 6/6 dinosaur with Convoke. So Convoke is your creatures can help you cast this. You can tap any number of creatures that you control to help pay for the casting cost, and they will either pay for one of the colorless, or if it is a green creature you're tapping, you can use it to pay the colored cost. I've used this before, tapped a couple green creatures to pay for the green pips, and had 5 counters on Animar, which drops the colorless cost by 5. So I just tap 2 creatures, play Ancient Imperiosaur for free, which is kind of nuts. Getting a 6/6 for no mana. Also has Trample and Ward 2. We discussed Ward earlier. And Ancient Imperiosaur enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. So if in the case that I was talking about, I tapped 2 creatures, entered as a 10/10. Insane. Absolutely insane. Next is Nurturing Bristleback, 5 green for a 5/5 dinosaur. When Nurturing Bristleback enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token. So you get a 5/5 and a 3/3 for 7 mana. That's 8 power and toughness worth of creatures on 2 bodies. It's pretty dope. Also has Forest Cycling, so this is the 3rd in the land cyclers from the Lost Caverns set. So again, you pay 2, you discard it, you can go get a forest card, doesn't have to be basic, and put it in your hand. After that, we have Hulking Raptor, 2 green for a 5/3 dinosaur with Ward 2, and at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add green. So just first main, you get 2 mana, just for having this boy out. This is a good dinosaur. I love when my creatures give me free mana. After that, we have Topiary Stomper, 1 green for a 4/4 plant dinosaur with Vigilance. Of course, Vigilance is the creature doesn't have to tap when it attacks. And when Topiary Stomper enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. And Topiary Stomper can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. So, really, you're paying 3 mana. Effectively, you're paying 1 mana for a 4/4 and 2 mana for a Rampant Growth spell, which is pretty dope, right? Like, Rampant Growth is 1 and a green. You go search for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. You just have to have 7 or more lands for this to be able to attack or block. But until then, it's just getting you more mana and getting you that much closer. So in reality, because it's going to cost you 3 mana and gets you a land, you already would have 4 of the 7 you would need, in theory. After that is Thrashing Brontodon, 1 green for a 3/4 dinosaur. With pay 1, sacrifice Thrashing Brontodon, destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's just good removal, right? 3 mana, 3/4 that has the ability to, at instant speed, if necessary, remove an artifact or enchantment. It's kind of nice because, you know, this is a very creature-heavy deck, and maybe your opponent is playing like a Rhystic Study or something, or a Smothering Tithe, and you don't want that problematic enchantment in play. Well, you have ways to remove it, and possibly get some damage in while you're at it. And the final dino of the deck, we have Regal Imperiosaur. 1 green for a 5/4 dinosaur. With other dinosaurs you control, get +1/+1. Pure and simple, straightforward. It's a dinosaur lord. This is the, what do they call it? Finish line foil from Aether Drift. A lot of people have colloquially called it the PP foil, but I don't know. I thought it was cool having a full gold card. It's easy to find your dinosaur lord in the deck because it's the only gold one like that. That's it for our dinos, but that's not it for our creatures. So as I said before, this deck does do quite a bit of mutating. All of these cards here are all creatures with mutate that are in the deck. So there is a heavy sub-theme of mutate. Again, we're going to start off with a legendary with mutate that could operate as an additional backup commander in the deck, as we saw Owen in blue, and Animar. Any of those ones, or this creature could be your commander, and it is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. 2 green, blue, red for a 6/6 legendary beast elemental dinosaur. It is a dinosaur for the purposes of dinosaur things. But also has mutate for 3 Gruul hybrid, so red or green, blue, blue. So here we see that the regular casting cost is 5 mana, right? 2 green, blue, red. The mutate cost is 6 mana, but it's a little bit more flexible because we have that green-red hybrid. So it's 1 more mana, but we get to mutate this creature. So we could have it mutate in on top of Animar, for example, and now we have a 6/6 that has protection from white and black and gets a 1/1 counter because we're casting this spell. So Animar would get a +1/+1 counter that would then drop all of our future creature spells by 1 mana. And it would still have its original abilities, which in this case are Flying and Trample. And whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. You just get a free card, right? You're getting a non-land permanent, and you can either put it into play for free, or you get to put it into your hand to cast later, which is kind of great. Because if it's a mutate creature, you'd probably want it into your hand so that you could mutate again and again and again and so on. And that's every time it mutates. So even if you put this underneath Animar, Animar now gets Flying, Trample, and this mutate trigger. Moving on through our mutate creatures, we have Trumpeting Gnar. Arnar. It's a Trumpeting Gnar. 1 green-blue for a 3/3 beast with mutate for 3 Simic. Simic, of course, being green-blue hybrid. And whenever this creature mutates, create a 3/3 green beast token. That's just great. Every time you're mutating, it's giving you more value. So that's part of the reason why mutate is kind of widely known as a broken mechanic, because you're able to make creatures different sizes and trigger all of these abilities at once. So in this example here, say we mutated a Luna onto Animar, right, our other commander. And then we mutate Trumpeting Gnar. We're going to get to exile the top card of our library until we hit a non-land permanent, and we can put it on the battlefield or into our hand. And we get to make a 3/3 beast. And then if we mutate again, we get to do both of those first 2 things, and whatever the new mutate ability is, and so on, and so on, and so on. Next up is Parcel Beast. This is 2 green-blue for a 2/4 elemental beast with mutate for green and blue. So this is one of the instances where the mutate cost is actually less than the casting cost. And has pay 1, tap, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. So you kind of almost get like a scry effect, right? You're paying 1, tapping the creature, you look at the top. If it's a land, cool, you get to put it on the battlefield. It doesn't say tapped, does not say tapped. And if you don't put it on the battlefield, it goes in your hand. So you just kind of get to fuel your hand, or mana ramp. After that, Pouncing Shore Shark is 4 and a blue for a 4/3 shark beast with mutate for 3 and a blue. So again, less than the normal casting cost if we're mutating. Has flash. So flash is this may be cast at instant speed. And whenever this creature mutates, you may return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So you just get to unsummon something. You get to bounce something back, which is kind of gnarly. That, like, especially if your opponent's in a deck where they go all in on casting a big creature, you could flash in, mutate, Pouncing Shore Shark, and get to bounce that big thing back to their hand, effectively time walking an opponent if they've just spent all their mana to do that. After that, we have Dreamtail Heron, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 elemental bird, with mutate for 3 and a blue, so again, costs less to mutate, has flying, and whenever this creature mutates, draw a card. That's just great. I love when creatures tell me I get to draw cards. Next up is Sea Dasher Octopus. 1 blue for a 2/2 octopus with mutate for 1 and a blue. So again, it costs less. And flash, so we can do it at instant speed. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Hey, that's pretty great. If we put these two together on a creature, Dreamtail Heron says when we mutate, we draw a card. This one says when it deals combat damage, draw a card. Dreamtail Heron gives it flying. That's pretty rad. That's lots of card draw. If you're in a teamer deck like this one, you like drawing cards. I mean, let's be honest. If you're in any deck, you like drawing cards. Next after that, we have Migratory Greathorn. 3 and a green for a 3/4 beast, with mutate for 2 and a green. So again, costs 1 less. And whenever this creature mutates, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So you kind of just, every time you mutate, you get to do a rampant growth, which is nice because you want to be sure to get lots of lands in this deck. Because the more creatures you can cast in a turn, the easier it's going to become to cast more creatures and more creatures and more creatures. Next up, we have Auspicious Starix, 4 and a green for a 6/6 elk beast. Mutates for 5 and a green, so this one is 1 more. But whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated, and you put those permanents onto the battlefield. So it costs 6 mana, but if you've mutated the target a bunch, you could get a bunch of creatures out for free, effectively. After that, we have Glowstone Recluse, 2 and a green for a 2/3 spider, with mutate for 3 and a green, which is giant spider mana, has reach, and whenever this creature mutates, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. This is my favorite creature to mutate onto Animar, because Animar says, hey, did you cast a creature spell? Put a 1/1 counter on him. Glowstone Recluse says, hey, did you mutate this creature? Put 2 1/1 counters on it. I've mutated Glowstone Recluse onto Animar before, and then every time he mutates, we're getting 3 1/1 counters, which is dropping the mutate cost, which is dropping our creature casting cost, and you see how it can just get out of control huge. After that, we have Everquill Phoenix, 2 red for a 4/4 Phoenix, with mutate for 3 and a red. So this is the same mana cost, but is less color intensive, and has flying. And whenever this creature mutates, create a red artifact token named Feather, with pay 1, sacrifice Feather, return target Phoenix card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped. So this is kind of nice because this is the only Phoenix in the deck, but those feathers we could keep, and say somebody does manage to remove the creature this is mutated on, we could just pay 1 and get this Phoenix back to mutate again. After that, we have Cloud Piercer, 4 and a red for a 5/4 dinosaur. So again, another dinosaur for the typal matters. With mutate for 3 and a red, so 1 cheaper. Has reach, love that. And whenever this creature mutates, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. You get to rummage, right? It's an impulse, not an impulse draw, but looting is draw a card, then discard a card. Rummaging is discard a card, and then you can draw a card. You've seen that in things like Faithless Looting, or oh, I've just forgotten the name of the card. But there's a bunch of red cards that have this similar effect of like get rid of a thing and then you get to draw things. Next after that, now we've moved into our non-mutate, non-dinosaur creatures. Up first is Arnie Metalbrow, 2 and a red for a 3/3 human berserker, Whenever a creature you control attacks, or a creature enters the battlefield under your control attacking, you may pay 1 and a red. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value less than that creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So this is kind of a contingency. If you've got a handful of big dinosaurs, you could attack with your biggest mana value thing, pay 2, drop a big dinosaur into play tapped and attacking, which then triggers it again, pay 2, drop another thing, pay 2, drop another thing, and so on down the line, as long as you're going down in mana value. And you just put them into play, tapped and attacking. Note that what it doesn't say is those return to your hand after combat. So you can just kind of dump your hand pretty easily for a lot lower mana. Next after that we have Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, 2 and a green for a 2/3 Elf Druid Scout. With tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. So this will help us pay for the mutate costs on things, or pay for creatures getting them out. It's a nice little mana dork, getting a 2/3 for 3 that gets us 2 mana. It's kind of a better Llanowar Elves in my opinion. And also has, whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, like a bunch of our dinosaurs, you put a 1/1 counter on Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia and untap it. So you could potentially use them again, cast another big dinosaur, untap them, make them bigger, do it again and again and again, and so on. Next after that we have Forgotten Ancient, 3 and a green for a 0/3 elemental. With whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. So you can distribute your 1/1 counters around the board. Now mind you, this is any player casting any spell, it gets a 1/1 counter. So Forgotten Ancient is one of those that can get big real quick in a single round, and then I can distribute those 1/1 counters, or, no, wrong, I beg to differ. Also, hello, Dorknot. Welcome in. And by the way, thank you for that follow the other day. I knew you were kidding. I knew. Listen, I've been playing for Magic for, since 2011, 2012, whenever Innistrad came out. I've played many a Forgotten Ancient. Hello, hello. Welcome in, friend. I said you were wrong from the start. Well, listen, I'm very often wrong, but in some aspects, I'm a big stompy green player. Never wrong about a Forgotten Ancient. No, what I like to use this card generally for is I will take the +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient and put them onto our commander Animar, so that it basically would drop the costs of all of our creatures to next to nothing in a single round, which is very nice. Forgotten now until he stops you out. Yeah. Next up we have Garrick's Horde, 5 green for a 7/7 beast with trample, and you play with the top card of your library revealed, and you can cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card. So again, this works hand in hand with the mutate ability, because if the top of our library is a creature with mutate, you can cast the mutate cost off the top. This works really great with Animar, dropping the costs, continuing to mutate on Animar. You just kind of get to keep cycling through your deck as long as you're hitting creatures. Next up we have Lotus Cobra, 1 and a green for a 2/1 snake. With landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you add a mana of any color. It's just good, efficient mana ramp. you've seen Lotus Cobra in many a green deck because it's giving you double value on all of your lands. After that, we have Siege Behemoth, one of the potential win cons that you want to aim for. 5 green for a 7/4 beast with hexproof. So hexproof, of course, being the ability of this creature cannot be targeted by spells or abilities your opponents control. So if they want to remove it, they need to either kill it in combat or board wipe. And as long as Siege Behemoth is attacking, for each creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Now again, we're in a big stompy dinosaur deck, so you can just kind of swing out with all your dinosaurs, and even if your opponents block, you just say, well, I'm going to have them deal their damage to you even though they're blocked, and that just kills the table. Next, after that, we're moving into our Planeswalkers. We have Ren and 7. 3 green for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, Ren. With +1 loyalty, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. 0 loyalty, put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. With a Lotus Cobra out, that ability is bonkers. And -3 loyalty, create a green tree folk creature token with reach, and this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Again, because it's a tree folk, it's not a human, that's mutatable. And the ultimate ability, -8, return all permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. So all of the things that you've been putting in your graveyard off of the plus ability, you're hopefully able to then alt Ren and 7 and get them back from your graveyard. And now you're just max hand size is not a thing. And after that is Jeska Thrice Reborn, 2 and red for a 0 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Jeska. Jeska Thrice Reborn enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. So you don't want to be casting this until you've cast Animar at least once. 0 loyalty, choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. That's basically there for the big giant dinosaurs. Or if we get Animar huge, you could, well, not even huge. If you get Animar up to 7 power, he starts as 1, right? If I play 6 creatures and I use this 0 ability, a 7/7 Animar would deal 21 damage to an opponent. That's insane. You could kill a player off of that ability. And for -X loyalty, Jeska Thrice Reborn deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. So, however many loyalty you're removing, you get to deal that much damage to 3 targets, which can hit opponents. And then also Jeska Thrice Reborn can be your commander and has partner. It's mainly just in there for that 0 ability. Being able to pick a creature, it deals triple damage. I really like this one with the Ravenous Tyrannosaurus as well, that we talked about how it's easy to make it huge. You use this ability, and you can just wipe out an opponent in one swing. That's it for Planeswalkers. We're going to move on now to enchantments and artifacts, and then our non-permanent spells. So up first, it's one of my favorite cards to shout out in song. This is the rhythm of the wild. 1 red green for an enchantment says creature spells you control can't be countered. I love that text. I'm a Gruul girly. I love playing a good red-green deck, and I love when my stuff can't be countered. And non-token creatures you control have Riot. Riot is a keyword that says when it enters the battlefield, you can have it enter with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. There's literally no downside to either of those things in this deck. After that is Ferocity of the Wilds, 2 and a red for an enchantment. Attacking non-human creatures you control, get +1/+0 and have trample. Again, we're in mostly dinosaurs and mutate. Most of our creatures are not human. The ability to just, hey, your whole board is +1/0 and trample is incredible. Next, we have another of the Jurassic World cards. This is Life Finds a Way. 2 and a green for an enchantment with whenever a non-token creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, populate. So populate is you create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. So there is a couple steps, right? You want to be able to have some kind of creature token in play, and then play your power 4 or greater creatures so you can keep making tokens of those tokens. After that, we have some of the best card draw in green. Guardian Project, 3 and a green for an enchantment with whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. Hey, we're in Commander. It's a singleton format. Most decks are going to be full of your creatures don't have the same name. So this just reads, hey, when you play a creature, draw a card. And you play a creature, you draw a card. After that, we have Unnatural Growth. 1 green, 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 green. So it asks a lot of green mana. For an enchantment that says, at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. A lot of people miss this. It is each combat, that is my combat step and my opponent's combat steps. So all of my creatures are just twice the size. As long as it's combat or post-main phase, post-combat main phase rather, my creatures are twice as big. This is one of my favorite enchantments in green. After that is Garruk's Uprising, 2 and a green for an enchantment. When Garruk's Uprising enters, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. Love that. So this enters, we have a power 4 creature, you get to draw a card. Now our whole board has trample. Love it. And whenever a creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, draw a card. So you just kind of keep it's kind of, you know, little of redundancy for Guardian Project, but with, you know, a little more specific steps. You have to have it be power 4. But the stapled on all of my creatures have trample is just nice. Next up we have another Jurassic World card. This is Welcome to, which is 1 green green for a enchantment Saga. As this Saga enters and after your draw step, you add a lore counter to it. So when you first play it, it enters with the 1 lore counter, and that first chapter is for each opponent, up to 1 target non-creature artifact they control becomes a 0/4 wall artifact creature with Defender for as long as you control this Saga. So you pick an artifact of theirs, it's now a wall, right? Chapter 2. Create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample. It gains haste until end of turn. Great. Well, that dinosaur is just going to bounce off the wall. That's where we get into Chapter 3. Destroy all walls, exile this Saga, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. So whatever artifacts you chose in Chapter 1, you do get to blow up, and now you have that dinosaur. And on the back side of Welcome to is Jurassic Park, a legendary land with each dinosaur card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast cards from your graveyard for their escape cost. So basically anything that's in your graveyard, you can now cast from your graveyard. But you do have to exile 3 other cards from your graveyard to do that. So it's a little bit of recursion, right? But also, as this land, it has tap to add green for each dinosaur you control. So it's kind of a Gaia's Cradle-esque, but specifically for dinosaurs. And again, we're full of dinosaurs in this deck, so you never hate to see a good Jurassic Park. Next up is the Skullspore Nexus, 6 green for a legendary artifact. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So it's going to drop its cost based off of how big our creature is, or creatures are, whatever the biggest one is. And whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. So if I lose a 15-15 Ravenous Tyrannosaurus, I make a 15-15 fungus dinosaur. So it's keeping our board state full. Also, you could pay 2 and tap to double target creature's power until end of turn. So the nice thing there being, if someone's about to remove one of your creatures, you could pay 2, tap, suddenly double that creature's power. It then dies. You make a fungus dinosaur that's equal to twice that creature's power and toughness, right? It's just good way to keep your board full. Next after that, of course, we're in a 1/1 counter deck. You have to have the Ozolith. 1 mana for a legendary artifact says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. Now, again, Animar gets +1/+1 counters. If our opponents remove them, those counters go on the Ozolith. We could recast Animar. Combat hits, we put all those counters back on Animar, right? Or with Owen, being able to put counters on target dinosaurs. If something happens to that dinosaur, those ability keyword counters go on the Ozolith, and we could then place them on another creature. So it's keeping the value for placing your counters. Next, we move into some of our mana ramp. This is Ketria Crystal, 3 mana for an artifact. You can tap to add green, blue, or red, and has cycling for 2. Discard this card to draw a card. So early game, good mana ramp. Late game, you can always pitch it to draw a replacement. Next up, we have Simic Signet, 2 mana for an artifact. 1 and tap to add green and blue to your mana pool. So kind of like the filter lands we've seen before. You're paying 2 mana, and this will help you fix a little bit. Next after that is Commander's Sphere. 3 mana for an artifact. Tap to add a mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and you can sacrifice Commander's Sphere to draw a card. It's just a good standard mana rock. Now, what you won't see in this deck is a Soul Ring, because Animar is dropping the colorless cost of our creatures. It kind of felt useless because we want color sources for the deck. Up next is Strixhaven Stadium. 3 mana for an artifact, tap to add a colorless, and put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. But whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then, if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. So, again, we're in a dinosaur deck. It's a very aggressive deck. You want to always be attacking. You've got big creatures. Many of them are going to have trample. Chances are you're probably dealing damage to your opponents. You could easily get 10 counters on this. Now, it is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then if it has 10 or more, you remove it. You remove them, and that player loses the game. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked it up, but the way that I've always read this is for each opponent we damage, we're getting a counter. If I damage all of my opponents and get to 10 counters, I remove those counters, and each of those opponents that I've dealt damage to have now lost the game. I think. Again, never gotten it to do that. Usually it gets used to remove an opponent at a time, but it may be able to remove multiple opponents in the same combat step. After that, we have World Soul's Rage, X red-green for a sorcery. When World Soul's Rage deals X damage to any target, so whatever we make the value for X, that's how much damage it deals to any target, and you can put up to X lands from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So you're getting mana ramp and damage. It's potentially removal. Just a very good overall card that I think a lot of people missed out on from Murders at Karlov Manor. Next after that is Celebrate the Harvest, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of different powers among creatures you control. Put those cards onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. So again, we're in a deck that has a lot of various powers amongst our creatures. You potentially could, I've gotten this to get me 6 lands before for 4 mana, which is kind of wild. After that is Cultivate, 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Cultivate is just, listen, this is just straightforward, good ramp. If you're in a commander deck that's green, you probably are playing Cultivate. After that, we have Farseek, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain. Put it in onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. So, it doesn't say basic, number 1, and it has to be not a forest. Well, you could get a dual land that has mountain forest or island forest, right? But it just has to have one of the non-forest land types on it. So it's kind of a slightly better rampant growth. After that, we have Contest of Claws, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. If excess damage was dealt this way, discover X, where X is that excess damage. Again, we're in a big dinosaur deck. Having a bite spell like this that lets you discover into something else huge is super nice. For only 2 mana, it's very good. Next up is Growth Spiral, green, blue for an instant. Draw a card. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Doesn't say tapped. Doesn't say it has to be basic. You just get to play an extra land and draw a card for 2 mana. So this is what's, of course, known as a cantrip, because it replaces itself in your hand. Next after that, Return of the Wild Speaker, 4 and a green for an instant. You choose one. Either draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. More often than not, you're using this for the card draw, because our commander is not human and gets pretty big pretty quick. You could draw a ton of cards off of Return of the Wild Speaker. And finally, our final spell of the game, of the deck. This is the only reason why this deck is a bracket 3. It's Worldly Tutor. a single green mana for an instant. Search your library for a creature card and reveal that card. Shuffle your library, then put that card on top. This is a game changer. By this one card being in the deck, it automatically makes the deck a bracket 3, but you want to have a little bit of reliability to maybe get the creature card you need, like using this to go get a Luna and put it on top of your deck so that you could use it to mutate onto Animar, or whatever the case may be. It's just a good, consistent creature tutor for the deck. Alright, moving right along, we are going to be talking about our non-basic lands in the deck. We have Escape Tunnel. This is a land that, listen, you probably have heard me talk about Escape Tunnel a few times before if you're familiar with the show. Escape Tunnel is a land that you tap and sacrifice, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Or you can tap and sacrifice Escape Tunnel, and target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. It's pretty rare that we're using that second ability. This is mainly here for the mana fixing. Next up is Evolving Wilds. Hey, look, it's the first ability of Escape Tunnel. Literally. It is a land, tap and sacrifice Evolving Wilds, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. After that is Rogue's Passage, land that taps for colorless, or you can pay 4 and tap, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. This is great if you have Jessica Thrice Reborn, and you use her ability to have a creature do triple damage. Then suddenly you pay 4 and tap Rogue's Passage, and now that creature's guaranteed to get through. Next up is Ketria Triome. This is a forest, island, mountain land, so it taps for green, blue, or red. Ketria Triome enters the battlefield tapped and has cycling for 3, so you can pay 3, discard this card to draw a card, but this is usually the one that you use Farseek to go get, or one of your land cycling dinosaurs, your forest cycling, your island cycling, your mountain cycling. You usually go get Ketria Triome because then you have the perfect mana that you need to fix whatever mana costs you have. Next up we have Command Tower. This is the Jurassic World art version. It's a land, taps for a mana of any color in your commander's color identity. I do really like that the all of the lands from the Jurassic World bonus sheet are all double-sided. It's super neat. So you can see we have the pyramid with the dinosaurs on the one side, and on the other we have Jurassic Park before the dinosaurs broke out. Of course, this being a dinosaur deck, I had to keep the side that has the dinosaurs on it. After that, we have Breeding Pool. This is a forest island land, so it taps for a green or a blue. And as this land enters, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. So again, because it has those dual land types, you're usually using your Farseek or one of your land cyclers to go get this card, if you already have your Triome. Next up, we have Thornwood Falls. It's a land. When it enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters, you gain a life, and it taps for a green or a blue. And we're going to see all 3 of the gain lands in this deck's colors. After that is Lumbering Falls. This is one of the creature lands. Lumbering Falls enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a green or a blue, and you can pay 2 green-blue, and Lumbering Falls becomes a 3/3 green and blue elemental creature with hexproof until end of turn, and it's still a land. So if you just absolutely need a body to like save you from dying and you have the mana open, Lumbering Falls is a nice kind of little gotcha. Next up is Yavimaya Coast. It's a land, taps for 1 mana, colorless, or you can tap it for green or blue, but it deals a damage to you. These are the known as the Pain lands. After that is Temple of Mystery. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when Temple of Mystery enters, you scry 1 and taps for a blue or a green. Next, we have another of the creature lands, Restless Ridgeline. Enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a red or a green, And you can pay 2 red-green, and Restless Ridgeline becomes a 3/4 red and green dinosaur creature until end of turn. That's still a land. And whenever Restless Ridgeline attacks, another target attacking creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and you untap that creature. So you kind of give it vigilance effectively, and you make it bigger. So it's a nice little one to throw in there, especially if you've got like a big dinosaur pump spell about to happen. After that, we have Rugged Highlands. This is the red-green gain land. So enters tapped, you gain a life, and can make you a red or green mana. Swiftwater Cliffs, the red-blue gain land. Enters tapped, you gain a life. Sapseep Forest. This is an interesting one. It is a land forest. It's not basic, and it taps for a green mana. It does enter the battlefield tapped, but you can also pay a green and tap and gain 1 life, but you activate only if you control 2 or more green permanents. So you kind of get a little bit of life gain on a stick, but it's got some hoops to jump through, but it has the forest land type. So again, you could tutor for this with one of your cyclers if you need to. Yeah, it's just an interesting, hey, sometimes 1 life makes all the difference. Next, we have Vivid Grove. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped with 2 charge counters on it, and you can tap to add a green to your mana pool, or tap and remove a charge counter from Vivid Grove to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. It's just nice to be able to, if you just need the fixing, then you have that available. Yo, what's up, Paragon? Welcome on in, friend. Welcome, welcome. Let me get you a shout out here. Give me 1 sec. There we go. Got that one. Go. Yeah, welcome on in, friendo. All right. Next up, we have Castle Vantress. This is a land. Castle Vantress enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. Taps for a blue, and you can pay 2 blue and tap to scry 2. It's just nice to be able to set up your deck, right? If you have the Garrick's Horde in play, or need to set up your draws, right? Being able to just have scry on a stick is kind of nice. All right, and then we are going to talk about basic lands in the deck. Well, we're going to show the basic lands in the deck, and then that is it for this deck. We will then move on to, we'll take a little break after this, as we usually do, and then we'll move into talking about some werewolves. So up first we have our basic islands. This is the Phyrexia All Will Be One full art. Another island. This is island from, I forget what they called the treatment, but it's from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We have a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World island, a big dinosaur on it there in the tank. You got the people cheering. I also like that the other side of it, because again, all the lands in Jurassic World were double-sided. So on the other side, you have this people in a submarine, and the dinosaurs right behind them. It's a little spoopy. And we have Basic Mountain, again, Jurassic World one. You got the Tyrannosaurus with the exploding volcano there. And on the other side, I forget the name of those dinosaurs, but they're like the little tiny ones that ran in big giant packs. But of course, T-Rex is my favorite dinosaur. It was also my nickname in my 20s. So I had to have the T-Rex on there. Then we have one of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan mountains in foil. Then we have another mountain from, these are from Kamigawa, the Kamigawa painting ones. I really like these lands. These might be some of my favorite lands in all of Magic. We have the other art for the mountain. Then we have some of the Midnight Hunt. Innistrad Midnight Hunt, the black and white, the horror lands. And the other mountain from Midnight Hunt. Then we have a Kamigawa Forest. It's my favorite little fun fact to teach people because they do use the kanji or katakana, hiragana. I think it's kanji in this instance. This is the This, of course, is the kanji for mountain. That one is the one for forest. But this individual symbol, you can see it's 3 of the same symbol stacked together. If you took one of them, that's the kanji for tree. If you put 3 of them together, tree, 3 trees becomes a forest. I just think that's a super neat fun fact. And we have the other art for the Kamigawa Forest. We have the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Forest. We have a basic snow-covered forest from Kaldheim. And then we have a number of these snow-covered forests, the full art ones from Modern Horizons 1. Why snow-covered forests, you ask? Well, what killed the dinosaurs, to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger? The Ice Age. So that was my extra little joke there. I put some snow basics because of the Ice Age. There you go. That is the Animar Soul of the Elements deck. That is secretly a dinosaur and mutate deck. We are going to take a quick little break, as we like to do, and give everybody a chance to hydrate and run to the restroom, grab any snacks or refresh your beverages, any of those things, so you can come right back and we'll talk about some werewolves. My absolute favorite creature types. So let's, again, do want to, let me just pop in the chat here. And for anyone interested, we do have, as a reminder, we do have the Archidect deck lists linked in the pinned comment in chat for anyone that wants to see those. They will also be in the video description of the VODs, both on Twitch and on YouTube for this video, so you can check out the deck lists over there if you want to see them a little up close, or possibly even rebuild the deck for yourself. And also we have our Spotify playlist that we like to listen to in the latter half of the podcast. So do want to send a massive thank you and shout out to Happy Boy Games for all of the various channel themes that we've been listening to thus far. And now we'll be listening to some Omega on Deck, friend of the channel who makes some incredible music and has given me the permission to use his music during the streams. We want to shout out Omega. If you haven't had the chance, definitely go give Omega a follow. Super, super cool guy. Makes a lot of really great music. And if you too enjoy the music that you're hearing, you can click the link in the chat for that playlist and give it a listen for yourself. Let me just finish this shout out here. There we go. There we go. All right, we got those shouties in there. All right, friends, we're going to take a quick little break. This is a perfect chance for you to cycle your fluids, refill your beverages, grab any snacks, maybe sleeve your decks or what have you. Don't go away. We'll be right back to talk about more Magic cards after this. Alright, and we are back. Let me adjust the volume here. Hopefully everybody had a good little break there. Let's get back into talking about some magic cards, shall we? So, I mentioned it a little bit at the top of the episode, but this is a personal favorite of mine, almost a pet deck, because I do really like werewolves. It's what got me into Magic the Gathering, because I liked all of these double-sided transforming creatures. So this one might take a minute to get through. I'll do my best to explain the cards, read them out, but about half of the deck is going to be werewolf creatures, so each one will have two sides, a human side and a werewolf side. So, getting right into it, we have the commander of the deck, Tovolar, Dire Overlord. 1 red-green for a 3/3 legendary human werewolf with whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Love that. And it's for each of them. So you can draw quite a few cards if you're being very aggressive with your wolves and werewolves. There's 1 or 2 wolves in this deck, but it's mostly werewolves. And the nice thing about werewolves is even on their human side, they're still a werewolf, so they'll still draw you cards. But, and here's the big text, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. Then transform any number of human werewolves you control. So he works to transform all of your non-daybound, nightbound werewolves. Also has the keyword daybound. I guess we should probably get into day and night. It is a extra thing to track in game. So you have this day-night reminder, right? All of the newer werewolves from Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Vow have this daybound, nightbound, which is kind of how they fixed the werewolf transform mechanic. That was cool, but not very good in Commander. So with day, as it becomes day, you transform all nightbound permanents, and if a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. When it becomes night, all of the daybound creatures become transformed. And with night, as it becomes night, you transform them all. Permanents enter the battlefield on nightbound, which is also super nice, because if it's already night, you could cast any of your daybound werewolves, and they will enter on their nightbound side. And it doesn't become day unless a player casts at least 2 spells during their own turn. It'll then become day on the next turn. So that's kind of how they fixed werewolves for Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, because the original werewolves, it was if no player casts a spell during a turn, they transform. If a player casts 2 or more spells in a turn, they transform back, right? At the start of the next turn. This adds the extra on their own turn, because one of the things that would very commonly happen with your werewolves is you would go to pass through your turn, and your opponent would cast an instant on your end step, which would stop your werewolves from transforming, which kind of sucks. Or if you cast 2 spells on an opponent's turn, then your stuff transforms back. But with the daybound, nightbound mechanic, it now is on their own turn. So that way you're not going to get absolutely bamboozled by passing through casting stuff to transform your creatures, only for an opponent to stop them from transforming on your end step. So the daybound, nightbound fixed that. And then in addition with Tovolar, it counts itself in that needing 3 wolves or werewolves. It doesn't say other. So if you have 2 other wolves or werewolves on the start of your turn, it becomes night, and you get to transform any of your human werewolves. So that includes the older ones from previous Innistrades, which is kind of nice. On Tovolar's other side, he becomes Tovolar the Midnight Scourge. 4/4 werewolf, legendary, with whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So again, it's keeping your hand full. And has X, red, green. Target wolf or werewolf you control gets +X/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. And has Nightbound. So we'll see this ability again on a land in this deck called Kessig Wolf Run. It's a classic one that people love to include in Gruul decks or very aggressive decks. You just kind of have that built in, as well as keeping your card draw. So Tovolar is the single best werewolf commander that they have printed, because there's only been one other legendary werewolf to date, and that is Ulrich of the Crawling Horde. 3 red-green for a 4/4 legendary human werewolf. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Crawling Horde, target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So you get a nice little pump on one of your creatures, and at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Ulrich of the Crawling Horde. So this is the old werewolf text I was talking about, right? Because it doesn't have that on their own turn. You could easily wind up, well, I'm not casting anything, so I can try to transform on an opponent's turn, and they cast an instant, and now you can't transform, which was really rough. Ulrich transforms into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha. 6/6 legendary werewolf, with whenever this creature transforms into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control, and has at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, you transform Ulrich Uncontested Alpha. So this was the old text for transforming back. A player had to cast 2 spells on a turn. Moving right along into Huntmaster of the Fells, 2 red-green for a 2/2 human werewolf. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Huntmaster of the Fells, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, and you gain 2 life. And then has the old transform text. So just for shorthand, I'm going to say old werewolf text or daybound nightbound, right? So we can differentiate. And then we don't spend the entire time talking about text that we've said 1,000 times. Transforms into Ravager of the Fells, a 4/4 werewolf with trample, and whenever this creature transforms into Ravager of the Fells, it deals 2 damage to target opponent and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature that player controls. So when you transform, you get 2 damage to somebody's face and 2 damage to one of their creatures, and then has the old transform text. Next up is Child of the Pack, 2 red-green for a 2/5 human werewolf, with 2 red-green, create a 2/2 wolf creature token. So you can just pay 4 mana, make a wolf, and then has Daybound. Transforms into Savage Packmate, a 5/5 werewolf with trample, and other creatures you control get +1/+0, and Nightbound. So just kind of acts as a trampling lord, which is kind of nice for 4 mana and a transform. Next up is Kessig Naturalist, red and a green for a 2/2 human werewolf. Whenever Kessig Naturalist attacks, add red or green. Until end of turn, you don't lose mana as steps, and you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So you attack, you get an extra mana out of it, and you can use that in your second main phase. Also has Daybound. Transforms into Lord of the Ulvenwald, 3/3 werewolf with other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1, And whenever Lord of the Ulvenwold attacks, add a red or a green. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases and Nightbound. So, keeps the mana generation ability, but when it transforms into a werewolf, it becomes a little bit bigger and becomes a +1/+1 for all of your wolves and werewolves. All of your other ones. Next is Breakneck Rider. This is another one of the older werewolves. 1 red for a 3/3 human scout werewolf, and has the old transform text. So it's a 3/3 vanilla with transform text, basically. Transforms into Neckbreaker, a 4/3 werewolf with attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample and the old transform text. So again, kind of acts as a lord, but having that ability to give them trample, especially when you have Tovolar, that is going to draw you cards on all of those that are dealing damage. It's pretty great, so that you can attack and draw a bunch of cards. Next is Gyre Reach Bandit, 2 and a red for a 3/2 human rogue werewolf with haste and old transform, which transforms into Vilden Pack Alpha, a 4/3 werewolf, with whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield under your control, you may transform it. Now, this is primarily for the old transform, right? You could cast the werewolf and it'll enter and you get to transform it. With Daybound Nightbound, it works slightly different, because a Daybound Nightbound creature, even if you get to transform them, if it's day currently, they would just immediately transform back to their Daybound side. But for all of your old werewolves, you get to immediately transform them when they enter, which is kind of nice. Next, we have Mondronen Shaman, 3 and a red for a 3/2 human werewolf shaman with old transform, which becomes Tovolar's Mage Hunter. Hey, look, that's the first mention of Tovolar, which is a 5/5 werewolf, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, Tovolar's Mage Hunter deals 2 damage to that player. So it kind of incentivizes your opponents to not cast spells, right? Because they're going to take damage every time they do. So it hopefully keeps them from trying to transform your stuff back. Next, we have Crew and Outlaw, 1 red for a 2/2 human rogue werewolf with first strike and old transform. Becomes Terror of Crew and Pass, 3/3 werewolf with double strike, and each werewolf you control can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Let me double check really quick. I'm not entirely sure if that has been errated. Yeah, it has. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so this has since been errated to read werewolves you control have menace. So it does give them the keyword. Not that it's a huge deal, but, you know, sometimes it matters when it comes to keywords. So, yeah, Terror of Crew and Pass. It's nice that it's a 3/3 with double strike, so it effectively hits like a 6/3 and has menace and gives all of your other werewolves menace, making them that much harder to block. Next up is Instigator Gang, 3 and a red for a 2/3 human werewolf with attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and old transform. So a nice little banner effect. Becomes Wild Blood Pack, 5/5 werewolf with trample, and attacking creatures you control get +3/+0 and old transform. So even better, now it's because it's all attacking, it counts itself. It attacks as an 8/5 with trample, which is pretty neat. Next up is Ill-Tempered Loner, 2 red for a 3/3 human werewolf. Whenever Ill-Tempered Loner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. And for 1 and a red, Ill-Tempered Loner gets +2/+0 until end of turn, so kind of a fire-breathing type effect, and has Daybound. Transforms into Howlpack Avenger, a 4/4 werewolf with whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, Howlpack Avenger deals that much damage to any target, and still has the 1 and a red, gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and Nightbound. So it passes that, before did it take damage, it deals that much damage to any target, so you kind of get to redirect. But when it transforms, it now gives that redirect to all of your permanents, which is pretty nice. Next up is Volatile Arsonist, 3 red for a 4/4 human werewolf with menace and haste, and whenever Volatile Arsonist attacks, it deals 1 damage to each of up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target planeswalker, and or up to 1 target player, and Daybound. So on attack, you get to deal a damage to a player, a planeswalker, and a creature. You can do all 3. But it's up to, so it could be, you could ignore, right? If there is no planeswalker, if there is no creature that they have, you could just have it deal damage to a player. Now here's the fun thing, it doesn't have to be the same targets. So I could have it deal 1 damage to 1 player's target creature, 1 damage to another player's target planeswalker, and 1 damage to a 3rd target opponent, which is kind of nice. And has Daybound, becomes Dire Strain Anarchist, a 5/5 werewolf with menace and haste, and that same text, but now it's 2 damage. And it's to each of up to 1 target creature, 1 target player, and or 1 target planeswalker, and has Nightbound. So now you're basically getting a free shock, or 3 free shocks, effectively, just for attacking. Next after that is Lamholt Raconteur, 3 and a red for a 2/4 human werewolf with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Lamholt Raconteur deals 1 damage to each opponent, and has Daybound. Transforms into Lamholt Ravager, 4/4 werewolf, with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Lamholt Ravager deals 2 damage to each opponent, and has Nightbound. So you see this trend through a lot of the werewolves of very often it will do something as a human, but it will do it better as a werewolf. Next we have Ballista Watcher, 2 red for a 4/3 human soldier werewolf with 2 and a red, and tap, Ballista Watcher deals 1 damage to any target and Daybound. So you can just kind of ping something for 3 mana. But becomes Ballista Wielder, 5/5 werewolf with pay 2 and a red. Ballista Wielder deals 1 damage to any target. A creature dealt damage this way can't block this turn, and has Nightbound. Also note, it doesn't have to tap now to do that, which is pretty great. So it's still the 1 damage ping, but now it doesn't have to tap. And if you're hitting a creature, that creature can't block now, which is great if you're in an aggro strategy like this deck is. Next up we have Reckless Stormseeker, 2 and a red for a 2/3 human werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn, and has Daybound. Which becomes Stormcharged Slasher, 3/4 werewolf, with at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn, and has Nightbound. So on the human side, you get +1/0 and haste. On the werewolf side, it's +2/0 trample and haste. So again, that, human side does one thing, werewolf side does it better. Next up is Tavern Ruffian, 3 and a red for a 2/5 human warrior werewolf with Daybound. Just nice vanilla creature. becomes Tavern Smasher, a 6/5 werewolf with Nightbound. Just a good, solid creature. Next up is Village Watch, 4 and a red for a 4/3 human werewolf with haste and daybound. So, of course, I guess we haven't really talked about haste in a while. Haste is this creature can attack and tap the turn it enters. And that becomes Village Reavers, a 5/4 werewolf with wolves and werewolves you control have haste. So now all of your board is hasty and has Nightbound. Next up we have Fangblade Brigand, 3 and a red for a 3/4 human werewolf with 1 and a red can't speak today. Fangblade Brigand gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn and has Daybound. So you pay 4, you get a 3/4, you could pay an extra 2, it becomes a 4/4 with first strike. But that becomes Fangblade Eviscerator, a 4/5 werewolf with pay 1 and a red. Fangblade Eviscerator gets +1/+0 and first strike until end of turn. So the same text we saw on the other side. But also has 4 and a red. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. So now for 5 mana you can pump your entire board, which is kind of nice, and has Nightbound. After that is Harvesttide Infiltrator, 2 and a red for a 3/2 human werewolf with trample and daybound, which becomes Harvesttide Assailant, a 4/4 werewolf with trample. Just nice, straightforward. It doesn't take much to figure out that, 3 mana 3/2 trample pretty easily becoming a 4/4 trample. That's a pretty good rate. Next we have Outland Liberator, 1 and a green for a 2/2 human werewolf with pay 1 and sacrifice Outland Liberator to destroy target artifact or enchantment, and has Daybound, which becomes Frenzied Trapbreaker, a 3/3 werewolf with pay 1, sacrifice Frenzied Trapbreaker, destroy target artifact or enchantment, but additionally has whenever Frenzied Trapbreaker attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. So now you still have the instant speed pay 1 sack to destroy an artifact or enchantment, but if they're on their werewolf side, you can just attack that player and destroy that artifact or enchantment, and has Nightbound. Next up is Burly Breaker, 3 green for a 6/5 human werewolf with Ward 1 and Daybound. That becomes Dire Strain Demolisher, an 8/7 werewolf with Ward 3. That becomes a pretty hard creature to remove and hits like a truck. Next we have Tovolar's Huntmaster, 4 green for a 6/6 human werewolf with when Tovolar's Huntmaster enters the battlefield, create 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens, and has Daybound. So it enters, you get 2 extra bodies. So for only 6 mana, you are getting 10 power worth of creatures, right? Because you get a 6/6 and 2 2/2s. So you get 10 power across 3 bodies for only 6 mana. And he becomes Tovolar's Pack Leader, a 7/7 werewolf with whenever Tovolar's Pack Leader enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. So if you have Tovolar out and you turn it into night, right? That means when you cast Tovolar's Pack Leader, it will enter on its Nightbound side. It'll make you the 2 2/2 wolves, just like the other side does. But now every time this creature attacks, it's making 2 more wolves. Also, you can pay 2 and 2 green. Whenever target wolf or werewolf you can, another target wolf or werewolf you control fights target creature you don't control. So now you have a fight effect on a stick. You can pay 4 mana and have a wolf or werewolf you control attack another opponent's creature, and they just deal their damage. So now you have some removal, as well as continuing to make bodies. After that, we have Hound Tamer, 2 and a green for a 3/3 human werewolf with trample, and 3 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So you got a little buff on board. Also has Daybound, and transforms into Untamed Pup, a 4/4 werewolf with trample, and other wolves and werewolves you control have trample. Love that. And still has the buff effect of 3 and a green, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and Nightbound. So the only difference, the stat line changes, gets a little bigger, but now it becomes a banner effect of giving your whole board trample. Next we have Tireless Hauler, 4 and a green for a 4/5 human werewolf with vigilance and Daybound. That becomes Dire Strain Brawler, 6/6 werewolf with vigilance and Nightbound. Just nice, straightforward. It attacks really well, it blocks really well. Moving on, we have Bird Admirer, 2 and a green for a 1/4 human archer werewolf with reach and Daybound. That becomes Wing Shredder, a 3/5 werewolf with reach and Nightbound. So again, able to take care of some of those pesky flyers. Next up, we have one of my favorite old school werewolves. This is Mayor of Avabruck, 1 and a green for a 1/1 human advisor werewolf. With other human creatures you control, get +1/+1. So he acts as a lord for all of your werewolves when they're on their human side. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Mayor of Avabruck. So it's the old transform text. That becomes Howl Pack Alpha, a 3/3 werewolf with other werewolf and wolf creatures you control, get +1/+1. So now it's a lord for your wolves and werewolves. And at the beginning of your end step, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield, which again, it's going to make it +1/+1. So you get a free 3/3 on your end step, and then has the old transform back text. Next up is Sage of Ancient Lore, 4 and a green for a star human shaman werewolf. Sage of Ancient Lore's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. With Tovolar and our ability to draw cards on our wolves and werewolves dealing damage, this guy can get huge really quick. Also, when Sage of Ancient Lore enters the battlefield, draw a card. So he's coming in at least as a 1/1. Even if this is the last card in your hand, he enters, you draw a card, he's a 1/1. And then has old transform text. And becomes Werewolf of Ancient Hunger, a star werewolf with vigilance and trample. And Werewolf of Ancient Hunger's power and toughness are each equal to the total number of cards in all players' hands. This creature ends games just by itself. It's looking at all players' hands, and it's that big, and you're in a deck where you're drawing cards for each of your wolves and werewolves. It was already large, but when it becomes a werewolf, it is monstrous, and has the old transform text there. Next up, we have Daybreak Ranger, 2 and a green for a 2/2 human archer werewolf. With tap, Daybreak Ranger deals 2 damage to target creature with flying, so you get to shoot a bird down, and the old transform text, which becomes Nightfall Predator, a 4/4 werewolf with pay a red and tap. Nightfall Predator fights target creature, and old transform. So it's a way to remove a flyer if need be, or fight any creature. Next up, we have Scorned Villager, 1 and a green for a 1/1 human werewolf. Tap to add a green to your mana pool, and old transform text. It's just a nice little mana dork in a werewolf deck. but becomes Moon-Scarred Werewolf, a 2/2 werewolf with vigilance and taps to add 2 green to your mana pool and old transform text. So before, pretty straightforward mana dork. Now it's just decidedly better because it's a 2/2, has vigilance, you can attack with it, then you can tap it to make your mana if you need to. An even better mana dork. Next up we have one of the most powerful werewolves that has ever been printed, Avabruck Caretaker. 4 green for a 4/4 human werewolf with hexproof, so it cannot be the target of opponent's spells or abilities. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. Look at that. You just get to buff something on your board, and has Daybound. But when it transforms, becomes Howlhenge Huntmaster, a 6/6 werewolf with hexproof, and other permanents you control have hexproof. Love that. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, and has Nightbound. So if you get this down with it being Nightbound, with it being night, say from like Tovolar's ability, this comes in, now all of my stuff is hexproof, I move to combat, my entire board just got +2/+2 larger. That, more often than not, is going to, if not kill at least one player, could end the game on the spot. Next we have Duskwatch Recruiter, 1 and a green for a 2/2 human warrior werewolf. With 2 and a green, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order and old transform text. So you pay 3, you get to look at 3, put a creature in your hand. Pretty good. Pretty good. Keeps some stuff in our hand if we need it. But becomes Crawlin' Horde Howler, a 3/3 werewolf, with creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and old transform text. So on the one side, it's able to get a creature into your hand. On the other, it's dropping the cost of your creatures, helping you get them into play easier. Next up we have Wolfkin Outcast, 5 and a green for a 5/4 human werewolf. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a wolf or werewolf, and has Daybound. Hey, that's pretty great. It's a 6 mana 5/4. If you have even your commander, Tovolar, in play, this only costs 4 mana. 4 mana 5/4. Pretty great. And becomes Wedding Crasher, a 6/5 werewolf with whenever Wedding Crasher or another wolf or werewolf you control dies, draw a card, and has Nightbound. So we get card draw for dealing damage with our werewolves. This will give us card draw if any of those werewolves die. It's keeping your hand loaded. And the final werewolf of the deck, we have Weaver of Blossoms, 2 and a green for a 2/3 human werewolf, taps to add a mana of any color, so again, good mana dork, has Daybound, and transforms into Blossom Clad Werewolf, a 3/4 werewolf that taps to add 2 mana of any one color, and has Nightbound. So again, just a good mana dork on a body. Moving on, we are going to look at our non-werewolf creatures, and then we'll take a look at our planeswalkers, artifacts, and the like. Up first, we have one of my favorite non-werewolves that's a creature in the deck. This is Immerwolf, 1 red-green for a 2/2 creature werewolf with Intimidate. Intimidate is this creature can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. So this creature can't be blocked by anything except artifact red or green creatures. And other wolf and werewolf creatures you control get +1/+1, so it's a lord. And the best text on this creature, non-human werewolves you control can't transform. if you get all of your stuff transformed with Tovolar, right, becomes night, you transform any number of your werewolves, you get Immerwolf out, they now can't transform back. So they will stay on their better werewolf side. This is one of the best creatures in this deck. Next up is Nightpack Ambusher, 2 green for a 4/4 wolf with flash, so you can cast it at instant speed. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1, so it's a lord. And at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. We have a deck that wants us to not cast spells to make it night. And if we have Nightpack Ambusher out, and we don't cast a spell, we get a wolf, and it'll become night. And if we have Immerwolf out, then our transformed werewolves will stay transformed. And we can just keep making wolves. Great way to fill up the board. Next up, we have Kessig Cagebreakers, 4 and a green for a 3/4 human rogue. With whenever Kessig Cagebreakers attacks, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking for each creature card in your graveyard. This one is great after a board wipe has happened, you lose a bunch of your creatures, you get Kessig Cagebreakers down, you attack, hey, you just made a bunch of tapped 2/2 wolves that are attacking. Great way to finish off an opponent. And next we have Cult of the Waxing Moon, 4 and a green for a 5/4 human shaman. Whenever a permanent you control transforms into a non-human creature, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. So all of our human werewolves that become just werewolves, we make wolves for each of them. Doubles your board size pretty rapidly. Next we have Sereth the Viper's Fang, 2 green for a 3/4 human legendary human warlock. With other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch, and other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. And you can pay 1 and tap to untap another target creature or land you control. So this is in there because, again, we're a very aggressive strategy in this deck. Having your creatures untapped means they're not going to get removed, because they have hexproof, and then sending them into the red zone, into combat, tapping them, they all gain death touch. Your opponents are less likely to block your creatures now. And, if necessary, an opponent goes to kill one of those attackers, you could just pay 1 and tap Sereth, and untap that creature, now it has hexproof. And so any of those targeted removal spells will fizzle. But pairs very nicely with Finn the Fangbearer, 1 and a green for a 1/3 human warrior with Death Touch, a legendary human warrior with Death Touch, and whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. So with Sereth, all of our werewolves tap, they become Death Touch creatures. Now when they hit an opponent, they're getting 2 poison counters. It's possible to just kill the table. Next we have the Oil Slick Foil version of Luca Bound to Ruin. This was the one version of Luca from Phyrexia All Will Be One. Costs, sorry, it's a little hard to read here. There we go. Costs 2 red, gruel, green. So 2 red, hybrid, red-green, and a green. So for 5 mana, enters with 5 loyalty, legendary Planeswalker Luca, has completed, which is the keyword that that hybrid, the hybrid gruel, is Phyrexian hybrid gruel. So it can be paid with 2 life instead of one of the colors, but will come in with 2 less loyalty if you pay with life. So you could pay 5 for 5 loyalty, or pay, what would that be? 4 mana for a 3 loyalty. And then as far as loyalty abilities, has +1, add red and green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. so it's got some mana ramp. -1, create a 3/3 green Phyrexian Beast creature token with Toxic 1. Again, with Sereth and Finn, we are able to do poison counters. This will make us beasts that have Toxic that'll deal damage and give poison counters. And for -4, Luca deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled as you activated this ability. So there's a very distinct reason why it says what it says there, because if I do this -4 ability and say I have a 6/6 in play and I activate this ability, my opponent kills that 6/6 at instant speed, it would go to the next highest one. Well, this says whatever the highest power was when you activated it, that's the damage. So I love that there's that little addendum to try to stop instant speed removal. Next up, we have Arlen Cord, the Werewolf Planeswalker. 2 red-green for 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Arlen. With +1 until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 and gains vigilance and haste. And for 0, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token and transform Arlen Cord. And she becomes Arlen Embraced by the Moon. Legendary Planeswalker Arlen. Whatever loyalty she had when you transformed her is what she would be on her other side. But now the abilities have changed. So before we just had a +1 and a 0. Now we have +1 creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Great. Love that. -1. Arlen Embraced by the Moon deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and you transform Arlen Embraced by the Moon. So you get a little bite spell. And for -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control have haste, and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So now, if you get that emblem, now all of your creatures are hasty, and you can just tap them to shoot a creature or a player. They don't even have to attack anymore. After that, we have Arlen, the Pax Hope. 2 red-green for a 4 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Arlen with Daybound. So now we have our first Planeswalker that has Daybound, Nightbound. +1, until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. That's great because remember, Nightbound only triggers if a player casts 2 or more spells on their own turn. This lets you cast all your creatures with flash on opponents' turns, so it won't turn it back to day. And then -3, create 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. So she comes down, you could make 2 bodies, or get her up to 5 loyalty, and you get flash creatures that also come in bigger. And on her Nightbound side, Arlen the Moon's Fury, 4 loyalty, and again has it on this side because if it's already night when you cast her, you'll want to know what loyalty she's going to enter with. Has Nightbound, and now has +2 loyalty, add red and green, so you just get to add mana. And for 0 loyalty, until end of turn, Arlen the Moon's Fury becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature token with trample, indestructible, and haste. Pretty great. That for 4 mana, we could cast her at night and hit her 0 ability, and we have a 5/5 indestructible trample haste. I really like that version of Arlen. And finally, the last version of Arlen, Voice of the Pack, 4 green for a 7 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Arlen. With each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Love that. We just get bigger creatures just for playing the creatures we already want to play. And for -2 loyalty, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Now, she doesn't have any plus abilities, but you're going to be able to fire this off at least 3 times, as long as she's not being attacked. So you'd get 3 3/3 wolves. And now we're moving into our artifacts. We have the Celestis, 3 mana legendary artifact. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. You can tap to add a mana of any color. You can pay 3 and tap, and if it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. Activate only as a sorcery. So now we have the ability to just change the day-night cycle as needed. And whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain a life and you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So as you're changing day and night, you're gaining a life and possibly getting some card selection. You get to loot. Then we have Soul Ring, the classic 1 mana artifact, taps for 2 colorless. Gruul Signet, 2 mana artifact, pay 1 and tap to add red and green to your mana pool. Damping Sphere is a 2 mana artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless instead of any other type and amount. So any of your opponents that are trying to do Tron shenanigans, or they have a Gaia's Cradle or something, now that land just makes a single colorless, and that's it. And each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. So it's kind of penalizing players for casting more than 1 spell, right? Because we want them to only cast 1 spell a turn so that we can try to keep it night. And it stops big mana ramp. Next we have Conduit of Worlds, 2 green for an artifact. You may play lands from your graveyard and tap, choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is here for the, we only want to play 1 spell in a turn anyway, if it's already night, because we don't want to change it back to day. But this will let us get recursion for some of our creatures. By just tapping Conduit of Worlds, we get to play that creature from our graveyard, and that's the only spell we're playing. So it definitely helps with recursion. Next up we have Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, and equips for 1. You just want to have some kind of protection in this deck. With Tovolar, you want to be able to keep them around. Next we have Basilisk Collar. Listen, it's a werewolf deck. Of course I gotta throw a collar in there. We got a deck full of doggos. 1 mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink, and equips for 2. Hey, also pairs well with Finn the Fangbearer, because now we can just have Death Touch on the equipped creature. That's it for the artifacts. Next we're going to move into enchantments. We have Fires of Yavimaya. This is 1 red-green for an enchantment. Creatures you control have haste. Great. We're in a very aggro deck. You want to be able to attack all the time. And you can sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It is instant speed. It's nice if you just absolutely need that extra buff. But more often than not, you'd rather keep the enchantment that gives all of your board haste. Next is, This is the Rhythm of the Wild. 1 red-green, enchantment, creature spells you control can't be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot. They enter with either a 1/1 counter or haste. Again, very often in this deck, we're choosing haste. Next, we have one of my favorite includes, Chaos Sphere. 2 and a red for Enchant World, so it affects all players. Creatures with flying cannot block creatures without flying. How about that? So flyers can't block non-flyers. And creatures without flying can block creatures with flying. Look at that. We have a deck full of creatures that don't fly. The biggest weakness in this deck is creatures with flying. We have very few ways to get rid of them. With Chaos Sphere out, now we can block all those flyers, and their flyers can't block our non-flyers. It's pretty great, and it affects every player too. So this can absolutely turn the tides of battle against certain decks. After that is Shared Animosity, 2 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. We're in a deck full of werewolves. We're in a deck full of human werewolves. What if we could just make them all huge and attack with them? Then we have Berserker's Onslaught, 3 red for an enchantment. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. Love that. Because what does Tovolar say? Let's have a look. Tovolar says, whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If we give them double strike, we draw 2 cards for each of those creatures. That's pretty wild. Sorry, one sec here, chat. Yeah, Berserker's Onslaught, very good in a very aggressive deck, and especially good if your commander lets you draw cards based off of them dealing damage. So now we get that first strike damage in, and then we get normal damage in. You draw 2 cards on each creature. It's pretty good. Next, we have Unnatural Growth. We talked about this in the last deck, but it's 1 green for an enchantment. Beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. This card actually first appeared in Innistrad Midnight Hunt, and so it has a giant werewolf on it. Then we have Howlpack Resurgence, 2 and a green for an enchantment with flash, so we can cast it at instant speed. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf gets +1/+1 and has trample. I love flashing this in combat after my opponents have made all their blocks, and suddenly all of your creatures are 1 bigger and now trampling over. Next, we have Full Moon's Rise, 1 and a green for an enchantment. Werewolf creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. And you can sacrifice Full Moon's Rise to regenerate all werewolf creatures you control. This is my favorite board wipe protection. Or if you attack all out, or say your creatures all got goated and you're about to lose a bunch of them, you can just attack out without fear because you're attacking with big tramplers, and if any of them are going to die, you can just sacrifice this and regenerate them. Then we have Howling Moon, 2 and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. We are being rewarded for our opponents trying to make it daytime again. Next, we have Unnatural Moonrise, 1 and a green for a sorcery. It becomes night. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now this, with Tovolar out, means we're drawing 2. Because you draw 1 for the ability given by Unnatural Moonrise, you draw 1 for Tovolar. If that creature also has double strike, you'd be drawing 4. It's a very good sorcery for only 2 mana. And has flashback for 2 red-green. So you get to cast it twice. Love double use spells. Next is World Soul's Rage. We saw this in the previous deck. X red-green for a sorcery. Deals X damage to any target, and you put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. It's just a great way to ramp and get some removal. Next we have Blasphemous Act, 8 and a red for a sorcery. Blasphemous Act costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield, and it deals 13 damage to each creature. I've used this before with the Full Moon's Rise. You cast Blasphemous Act, you're about to board wipe, you sack Full Moon's Rise, all of your creatures regenerate, you blow up everybody else's stuff, and you get to keep your board. Then we have Cultivate, 2 and a green, sorcery, search your library for 2 basic lands. Reveal those cards, up to 2 basic lands. Reveal them, put 1 onto the battlefield, tap the other in your hand, then shuffle. And Farseek, 1 and a green, sorcery, search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. This basically reads search your library for a mountain card, but it can get a non-basic. That's really what we're looking for. Next we have Khazul's Fury. This is one of the spell lands. 2 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Khazul's Fury deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. So you get to kind of fling something. And then on the back, it is a Khazul's Cliffs, a land that enters the battlefield tapped and taps for a red. So early game, you could play it as a land. Late game, you get some removal. Then we have Colony Ambush, 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Again, just good removal. And on the back side is Colony Territory, a land that enters tapped and taps for green. So again, early game can be a land. Late game is a good removal spell. Next up is Waxing Moon. 1 and a green for an instant. Transform up to 1 target werewolf you control, and creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. I like using this with the werewolf that says our werewolves come in transformed. It's pretty nice. And then you just give your board trample. And then Moon Mist. This card has seen quite a bit of surge in popularity since all of the transforming creatures in Spider-Man and Marvel Superheroes and Final Fantasy, because Moon Mist is 1 and a green instant that says transform all humans, and you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures other than werewolves and wolves. So in our deck it's great because we instant speed get to transform all of our creatures. Now again, daybound, nightbound ones, if it's day when we cast this, they'll transform but then immediately flip back to their daybound side. But for all of the other werewolves, all the old werewolves, they will stay on their werewolf side. And now it's a fog spell, so only our creatures are dealing damage this turn. But this saw a lot of play in Final Fantasy decks, in Spider-Man decks now, because it will transform any human creatures. And then we have Kindred Summons. 5 green green for an instant. Choose a creature type, obviously werewolf. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards of the chosen type, where X is the number of creatures you control of that type. Put those cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. 7 mana. If we have 5 werewolves, we get 5 more werewolves into play. It's just a good explosion to your board state. And that's it for the spells. We're going to have a look at our non-basic lands now. Starting with Crag Crown Pathway. Of course, it's a werewolf deck. We have to put a modal land that can be either side. So Crag Crown Pathway is a land that taps for red, or, because it's modal, you could play it as Timber Crown Pathway, which is a land that taps for green. Of course, had to do it to him. Got to have a transforming land in there. Next up, we have the single most expensive card that I own in Magic the Gathering. This is Taiga. This is a land, forest, mountain. This was before they put the types on there, but it's since been not retconned, but oh, what is the word? I've just blanked on it. Errated. It has since been errated that it has both types. And you tap to add either green or red to your mana pool. Counts as both forest and mountains, and is affected by spells that affect either. If a spell destroys one of these land types, this card is destroyed. If a spell alters one of these land types, the other land type is unaffected. So that's all a whole bunch of old wording for what now just reads land, mountain, forest, tap to add red or green. So this is an old dual land. This is the single most expensive card I own. And this is a revised one. This isn't alpha or beta. At time of filming, at current time of filming, this card is on Card Kingdom $499.99. It's wild. Old duels are retirement money. So let your friends know. Yeah, I guess I should point out this deck's overall cost is just shy of $1,600. This land accounts for about a third of that cost. So let that be known to your friends. If anyone who's like, yeah, what's good sets, what's good money cards to buy, buy old duels. Yes, they're going to be expensive, but these are the kinds of cards that are never going to go down in value, right? And do I play it in a deck? Yes, I do. Am I insane? Possibly. Next up, we have Spire Garden. This is a land. As Spire Garden enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents, and taps for a red or a green. So these are the bond lands, right? Because it cared about having multiple opponents. So it's another nice untapped duel. Next we have Grove of the Burn Willows. Taps to add a colorless, or tap to add a red or green, and each opponent gains a life. You don't often see this in Magic, giving each opponent a life, but it does enter untapped. And if you just absolutely need to hard fix, it's not a bad option. Next is Copperline Gorge. Copperline Gorge enters a battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands, and taps for red or green. These are the fast lands, is what they're known as. Because as long as this is your first, second, or third land, it'll come in untapped. Next we have Stomping Ground. Stomping Ground enters the battlefield. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, Stomping Ground enters the battlefield tapped. Land, mountain, forest. So this is the red-green shock land, called so because it deals 2 damage to you if you want it untapped. And we have Cinder Glade. Cinder Glade enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So these are the slow lands, as opposed to the fast lands. You want to have 2 or fewer. This is 2 or more basic lands. And we have Wooded Foothills. Tap, pay 1 life, sacrifice Wooded Foothills, search your library for a mountain or forest card, put it onto the battlefield, does not say tapped, then shuffle your library. This is the red-green fetch land. Should point out, if these all look weird, these are all the expedition versions of the lands. So they're like the full art foil versions. Again, pet deck. This is the deck that I put money into making a fun, cool foil land base. Next we have Firelit Thicket. It's a land that taps to add a colorless to your mana pool, Or you can pay Gruul Hybrid and tap, so red or green hybrid tap, and add red red, red green, or green green to your mana pool. Next we have Rockfall Vale. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Doesn't specify basic. So these are like the upgraded versions of the slow lands, because it doesn't care if it's basic or not. It's just as long as this is your 3rd or later land, it's coming in untapped. It taps for red or green. Then we have Mossfire Valley. It's a land you pay 1 and tap to add a red and a green to your mana pool. So these are the... They had a name. I've always said filter lands, because you filter a mana into it to get both of your colors. Then we have Rootbound Crag. It's a land. Rootbound Crag enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, and taps for a red or a green. Doesn't have to be basic. So if you go get your shock land with your fetch land and then you play your Rootbound Crag, this is coming in untapped. Or let's be honest, if you're cracking a fetch land and you haven't gotten Taiga, you go get Taiga. Next we have Game Trail. It's a land. Game Trail enters the battlefield. You may reveal a mountain or forest card from your hand. If you don't, Game Trail enters the battlefield tapped and taps for a red or a green. So these are the check lands. Or no, the previous one that checks if you have a mountain or forest. These are the reveal lands. And then we have Gruul Turf. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped. When Gruul Turf enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand and taps for a red and green. So these are the bounce lands. And our final red-green duel, we have Karplusan Forest. It's a land, taps to add a colorless, or tap to add a red or green to your mana pool, and Karplusan Forest deals 1 damage to you. These are the pain lands. And now into the final stack for our werewolf deck. We have Command Tower. You know it, you love it. It's a land, you tap to add a mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Then we have Path of Ancestry. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped, and tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Hey, we're in a deck that's full of werewolves. You're probably always scrying. Then we have Cavern of Souls. It's a land. As Cavern of Souls enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You always choose werewolf. Taps to add a colorless, or tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend that mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and that spell can't be countered. Cavern of Souls. It's great for any Kindred deck. That's why it's not a cheap land. Then we have Prismatic Vista. Tap, pay a life, sacrifice Prismatic Vista, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It's a fetch land for basics, which is pretty nice. Then we have Fabled Passage, much like Prismatic Vista. It's a land, you tap and sacrifice Fabled Passage, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. So Prismatic Vista, you're paying a life, the land's always coming in untapped. Fabled Passage, as long as it's your 4th land, it'll come in untapped. And we have Kessig Wolf Run. I mentioned it earlier. Land, taps for a colorless, and you can pay X, red, green, and target creature you control gets +X/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. We saw that text on the backside of Tovolar. Except this specifically is for a wolf or werewolf and gives the +X/+0 and trample. Difference, Tovolar doesn't have to tap. So you can pay the mana, and he doesn't need to tap. This one you do have to tap, so you can only do it once. This one you can do as much as you can afford. Next we have Skarg the Rage Pits. It's a land, taps to add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can pay a red and green, and tap, and target creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Listen, sometimes you just really need to get the trample damage through, you know? And we have Reliquary Tower. It's a land. You have no maximum hand size, and tap to add a colorless. With how many cards you draw off of Tovolar, you want to be able to have a way to not have to dump your cards, and Reliquary Tower is a great way to do that. Then we have Rogue's Passage. We talked about this one in the last deck. Land that taps for a colorless, or you can pay 4 and tap, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. If you just need to get your damage through and make sure that your creature isn't stopped, that's a great way to do it. Next we have Castle Embereth. It's a land. Castle Embereth enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. Taps for a red, and you can pay 1 red, and all of your creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Just a nice little board buff. Then we have Castle Garenbrig. It's a land. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest, and taps for a green. Or you could pay 2 green and tap to add 6 green mana. So you pay 4, basically 5, because you also have to tap this land. So for the price of 5 lands, you add 6 mana, but you spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. I love using this and a single red to basically dump that into Tovolar's ability and get some trample. Then we have Vivid Grove. It's a land. Enters a battlefield tapped with 2 charge counters on it. Tap to add a green, and tap, remove a charge counter from Vivid Grove to add 1 mana of any color to your pool. Again, sometimes you just really need the fixing. And then we look at our basics. These are all going to be the Midnight Hunt horror lands, the black and white ones that are super cool. So there's a basic mountain, the other basic mountain, basic forest, and the final card, another basic forest. And there you go. That is a werewolf deck. So let me flip this camera back around here. There we go. All right. Well, that is the deck tech or deck list or podcast. That's the episode for today. Do want to thank you all so much for watching tonight. I hope you've had a wonderful evening. I hope you've had a wonderful time talking some Magic cards and talking decks. Do want to once again remind everybody, look forward to the content that we will be putting out in November, as we will be going to MagicCon Atlanta. I'm very excited for that. I was blessed with the opportunity to be one of 10 recipients only for Magic's Wizards of the Coast's New Perspectives program. So they asked me to come out to MagicCon and gave me a ticket and everything, and I'm very excited. It's my first ever MagicCon, and I definitely will be trying to stream and maybe even film to release a video about the whole MagicCon experience. But if nothing else, maybe streaming and hanging out and chatting with all of you at MagicCon. So look forward to that, and thank you again to Wizards of the Coast for that opportunity. Friends, you are going to see a couple things appear in chat here momentarily. They are the raid message and the sub-raid message. Of course, you've heard me say these things before, but we do like to reiterate. Do me a favor, if you're hanging out, just watching, vibing, copy your favorite flavor of raid message for me. I know that the sub-raid one doesn't show the emote, but that's because I'm not going to waste a gifted sub on a chatbot when I could gift it to a member of the community. And we are going to go share the love with another creator. I believe he's still on. As we very often like to do during the podcast, we like to raid out to Team Evil 1991, or JR to the homies. He's a regular in this channel and a friend. We are going to go share some love. He's playing some Lego Horizon Adventures, which is a super fun Lego game if you like Horizon Zero Dawn and you like Lego games, which we've been playing a lot of Lego games on this channel, so I assume you do. Then this one does it a little bit differently. It's pretty neat. It definitely is not what most people expect from a Lego game, but is also not fully Horizon. It's a nice little combination of the two. So we're going to head on over and say hi to the guru. Do want to thank you all so much for watching again. We will be back on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with more Lego Marvel Superheroes. We'll be wrapping up that game. And then on Thursday next week, we'll be playing some Lego Avengers, starting that out, which is the first time I've ever played that one, so I'm very excited for that. And then, yeah, we'll talk more about those as time goes on. But I do want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It's been my absolute pleasure and honor being your entertainment this evening. If you like the content that you see here, do me a favor, make sure and click that follow button so that you don't miss any of the streams. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, hi YouTube, do me a solid, double check that subscribe button, make sure that it's clicked. It helps me out, it costs you nothing. You get to see more of this content that you know and love. And maybe click the bell if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of those uploads. But until the next time, I've been Triune. You've been amazing. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good night, everybody. I hope your bags are packed. I hope your tickets are punched, because it's time. Let's raid!